loses to 10-man Everton at home while looking the worst side on the day. Wins away against a Palace side that are undefeated in 12 games at home, with a goal scored by a player that hadn't scored in 364 days and another from a player that is unable to stay fit to save his life. Back-to-back matches, by the way. Whatever your opinion on Manchester United is, what you can't label them as is predictable. On the 1st of November 2024, Ruben Amorim arrived on the sun-kissed shores of Manchester, a far cry from the famous grey of Lisbon. After exactly a third of the way through his first full campaign, we're at the point in the year where enough has happened to be able to make some assessments. For a brief period, Manchester United was on a streak of performances that led a lot of people to believe that they were on their way up in a very big way. Better game management, increased work rates, defensive performances, and of course a goalkeeper that can actually catch a ball. Since the 4th of October, up to the recording of this video, United have only lost one game in all competitions. And don't spam in the comments that United are only in one competition. I promise you it's not funny, bro. I promise you. United currently sit in 7th place, although they're only 4 points off 2nd place, so don't let that mislead you. If we look at the main stat comparisons to last season, we'll maybe grab some insight into how things have actually been going thus far. Only 2 points worse off, a couple more goals, but a boatload more goals against. However, at the same time, United have already played the entirety of the so-called Big Six with a decent record at that. 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. There's this underlying feeling right now that things are on the up and that progress is being made. But is any of that true? Hello, hope you're doing well, welcome back. I'm going to be talking about a few things in this video. Where United have improved, why it probably isn't enough to convince that many people, and finally, kind of a one-year assessment on Ruben Amorim. Also, if you need early tickets to the World Cup, they are on sale. You can check out StubHub International, they are linked in the description. I guess let's start with the man in charge, our favorite Portuguese DJ. Amorim does seem to have the board on his back. Ratcliffe has come out and said numerous times that that remains the case, even when things were at their worst. Of course, simple words and reality are two different things, and of course it also helps that the recent turn of results have been significantly more positive than under any point in the Amorim era. But I'm inclined to believe that there is significant truth in all the information that we're being fed by the United mouthpieces. I haven't been following the tabloids so closely when it comes to transfer news and all that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see even more outrageous numbers regarding what United bosses are willing to invest in the Amorim project come transfer time. Is this a good move or not? Time will tell. In a recent interview with United just before the Everton game to mark his one-year anniversary, Amorim admits that the occasion of the job has gotten the better of him on many occasions in that first year.
I felt like last year I was always overwhelmed with the games. I didn't have the time to settle down. I felt like last year I was really emotional all the time because I was struggling with the results.
He also says he's changed as a coach over the last year, adapting his build-up ideas, becoming more pragmatic.
I had an idea how to play, how to build up in the certain ways, and I changed that. You need to adapt. You need to understand where you play more possession, the way we win some corners to push the opponents. In that department, I changed a lot.
We can see this in the way United plays. From Sporting to United, Amorim's football has always been built on a 3-4-3-ish system with aggressive wingbacks and intensive pressing. A testament to that is that United's fullbacks are on average amongst the highest position-wise in the entire league this season. He's made it clear that he is not abandoning his structure, his philosophy, his overall strategy about how he sets his team up, that 3-at-the-back system, and he's also insisted that this is not the reason why he struggled to achieve back-to-back wins as a Manchester United manager up until 11 months into his United career. And we kind of saw that on full display in the most recent match against Crystal Palace, but we also kind of saw why that wasn't the case. was a game of two halves, and we'll get into that later on. But there are differences in structure and flexibility that we're seeing from this side, particularly with the long balls that Arne Slot seemed to talk about so much after the Liverpool game. As a comparison, in the 23-24 season at Sporting, as per FBref, just under 11% of all passes attempted were long, as in over 30 yards or 27 meters in non-freedom units. In comparison, with United up until now in this season, where about 15% of all passes attempted are long. Now, that might seem like a small percentage increase, but remember, we're not that far into the season, and football is a game of inches, where really small changes often indicate really large differences. United haven't always been the best with their feet. This is unfortunately a running theme that we've seen over multiple managers, multiple years, over a decade at this point, and each manager to some degree has followed a similar trajectory in that they've noticed this and they've reverted to something that the team actually can do. Increase the chaos, mix the short with the long, increase the long though. And funnily enough, this is something that Amorim himself has admitted to, and we can see it front and center on the club's website, explicitly tying that to the arrival of Lemens. It's still Amorim ball in some senses, but we can see that there has been some compromise. And both United goals against Palace came from set-piece situations. A quick, clever Bruno Fernandes free kick for Xerxes equalizer, and a roll to Mount for the winner. Both set pieces were clearly rehearsed, and that fits with what Amorim has been saying, in particular for his 1-year anniversary, that emphasizing set pieces is something that this team really needs to capitalize on. Arsenal recognize this as an area that can consistently cause opposition pain, regardless of how they set up, what they look like, and how good they are, and could easily have had 4 set-piece goals against Bayern Munich just the other day, the same Munich that has been heralded as the best team in the world at multiple points this season. And when you're conceding as many goals as this Man United side is, you need as much of an edge as you can get. In the current top 10, United are joint first in terms of goals conceded, joint with Liverpool and Brentford. As bad as Liverpool, oof. That's when you know you're doing something wrong. And this is what makes this team so confusing in so many ways. I think the team is more solid defensively than they were in recent years, but it's just an increased amount of those brain fart moments. You know, like Lenny Euro, he has some really good moments against Palace, but then he comes up with this tackle on Mateta to give away the Palace penalty. He gets frustrated, makes a couple mistakes, has to be taken off because he's just flustered. And those were just moments that make a big difference, and in the past United probably would have lost games where that happened, but they didn't this time, and that brings us to where I believe United have improved the most lately. It's an intangible. It's all mental. Looking over the last couple of games, there are clear signs that point towards this. We have the game against Tottenham Hotspur, a game that looked destined for dropped points, only to then be rescued towards the end by a last-ditch Matthias de Ligt equalizer. It wasn't pretty, it was the result of chaos created from a set piece, but the team played until the very end and eventually came away with a deserved point. We saw a similar story with Forest, down late on, and a wonder goal by Ahmad. We can even include the Liverpool and Brighton games here. Yes, in both of these games, there were no points in the matches that United actually trailed. But after the Cody Gakpo equalizer at Anfield, the game was looking more like the start of Liverpool's revival from obscurity than Manchester United's call to rally. Against Brighton, up 3-0 at one point, and then all of a sudden, that scoreline goes down to 3-2 in the dying minutes. A really crucial time. And then Mbeumo gets his second of the day in the 97th minute, calming the nerves. The psyche in this team in recent times, in recent years, has been such that any minor setback leads to just a massive collapse and a total loss of belief and capability. It might sound like I'm waffling over here, but at the end of the day, isn't that what everyone that makes YouTube videos does? I'm sitting alone in a room right now, talking into a camera. My dog is looking at me confused because there's no one else in this room right now, and what I want to say is that United, they're clearly improving in several ways. Even though these ways are intangible, they're clearly leading to results, which is a good thing. Having said all of that, while some intangibles may be up, the actual eye test of the performances leaves quite a lot to be desired. You know, enough for many people to not think that this team is back just yet.
Man United are back. That should have been the closing. I
think let's finish off by going into a bit more detail as to why the frustration still persists despite the good results, and we can do this by going back to the Crystal Palace game. It was a game of two halves, where the first half was a slice of the Manchester United that that we all know and love, trying their hardest to weather a storm, equipped with little more than a loincloth. Palace failed to score despite many an opportunity. Of course, United are the first team that I know of to suffer from the changed double touch rule in pens. Last year, and for many of the seasons before, if the penalty taker touched the ball twice in their attempt, then the penalty was ruled out because of the infringement made by the attacker. Now, it gets retaken. I believe this change was made following the Julian Alvarez debacle in last season's Champions League. Long gone from City, still causing Man United grief. In the second half, United came out with a point to prove. Some really impressive pressing, wonderfully worked set pieces, and 3 points were in the bag. Plus, calling back to what Amorim said, the difference between the first half and the second half, for the most part, was intensity, which is more player-dependent than system-dependent.
It's not so much, I didn't say go near Josh, I just said to the players we need to be more alive, and you can feel that. So if you are more alive, you are in more places, you are near the ball more often.
Happy days. But man, oh man, was it not that reassuring? There's clear evidence that there's an over-reliance of moments of brilliance and magic, confidence, and all that good stuff, as has always been the case. None of those were on display against Everton, where, mind you, Everton scored while having 9 outfield players. And if you look at the goal scored by Dewsbury Hall, it would make you think that Everton were the team that had the man advantage. He strolls into the danger area and gets a quite lovely shot off, but it's just too easy. And listen, I know playing against 10 men is a lot harder than a lot of people would probably want you to believe that it is. You know, if you're playing with 9 men, it means now you have to cover more ground, you have to occupy different spaces, and that can be a problem for your opposition because now they have to track all of that. Meanwhile, they prepared for something different, and the entire thing divulges into chaos. But let's not pretend like the team with 11 men is the one with the actual disadvantage here. Chelsea and Everton did really well in recent games to showcase that increased chaos that happens and have some real defensive solidity. But let's not pretend like Arsenal and Man United shouldn't have come away with the 3 points in both of those games. Against Palace, Bruno Fernandes had a great game after the 40th minute or so, and in this good stretch of games for United, he's had some great moments. The dummy against Brighton that led to the 4th, the cross for Maguire against Liverpool that led to the winner. These moments go hand in hand with the penalty misses against Fulham and Brentford that would have effectively brought United up at least 3 points. He has the ability to drop a straight 10 of a performance and then turn around the very next week and drop a straight 2. However, without him, who knows where this club would be. Still, he's clearly not being utilized to his best ability. I can't even count the amount of times that I've seen this man get outclassed by an opposing midfielder that actually specializes in that holding role. Adam Wharton was at the end of a long list of players that fit that bill and just walked through him in the first half. I know Joshua Zirkzee is just filling in for some absent players, but I think he perfectly encapsulated what this team is about in so many ways. He had a bang average game. I would actually say an awful game up until his first goal. But then he scored that goal, and then after Mount scored the go-ahead goal to make it 2-1, he just started balling out completely. It's just all confidence. And that's the story of Man United. The problem is that in a place where confidence is kind of hard to come by on a consistent period, historically, it doesn't really inspire that much confidence that things are really turned around. Kobe Mainoo, who should be improving rapidly, hasn't convinced Amorim he deserves more game time, and also won't get many chances given United are effectively only in the Premier League and the FA Cup, which only starts in January for Premier League teams, and his competition is basically the only undroppable player at the club. Throw in the fact that Palace just played a grueling Europa League Thursday night fixture away in France, and then came into this United match on the Sunday and looked gassed by like the 35th minute. It doesn't really inspire that this win was so convincing. Obviously it was. It's a big win. It's against Palace, and I hate being so pessimistic, but this is what I'm doing for this video, right? I'm trying to argue both sides, and I'm trying to be balanced. There is one man that has made one tick on the wall, nervously hoping that things will keep going on. And you know what? There is reason to believe that they will, especially when you see the next 4 fixtures: West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth, and Villa. For the very next 2, you would think that West Ham and Wolves are there for the taking. West Ham are in relegation form. Paqueta decided to get himself suspended against Liverpool. I bet he never thought that he'd be having the day off. And Wolves are already firmly in the running for the worst Premier League team ever. If this team were ever to have a chance for 5 in a row, I would say that right now is a pretty good chance. So, let the Christmas countdown begin. We can also take solace in the fact that this team will look a lot better on the ball once Cunha is fit, but I don't know, man. So what's changed? Well, quite a bit, but also not that much. I mean, listen, United are a work in progress. There is hope and there is reason to be optimistic, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is that I don't feel all that much anymore. So what happens? It'll happen. I'm just kind of floating in the wind. As for Amorim's review, by the power vested in me, he can continue. Of course, my opinion and my judgment matters, but he's still on probation. So, watch this space. And there we have it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.